Hello, everyone. Tonight we are starting in the quiet, where all storms begin. The wind hums outside my window, not loud, just constant, like it knows something's coming. Inside, the lights are dim, the hum of the fridge, the soft tick, tick, tick of a wall clock, and me, curled up on the corner of a couch that's seen better years. I hold my phone, thumb hovering over the screen, banking app open, $42.17. I stare. Not shocked, not panicked. Just still. Because sometimes, stillness is the loudest kind of grief. Rent is due in 4 days. Groceries? Not happening. And the mugs, the beautiful, handcrafted, unsold mugs I once poured my heart into, are stacked in boxes by the radiator, like forgotten promises. But wait. Before we step deeper into this story, can I ask you something? If you feel this pause, if something in this quiet beginning pulls at you, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you feel like what I do here speaks to something in you. I'm not here for algorithms. I'm here to tell stories that matter. And I want to know, where are you watching from? And what time is it where you are right now? Type it in the comments. It's always moving to see strangers become a kind of soft community. Now, turn off the lights. Let the night wrap around you. Maybe turn on a fan. Let the low hum carry us. Because this story, it's not just about failure. It's about what failure uncovered. Let's begin. The first time I held a piece of clay, I was 12. My hands were too small for the wheel, but the instructor let me stay after class. She said I had a steady touch. I didn't know what that meant. But I remember the way the wet clay clung to my skin, cold, alive, shapeless, and how somehow I understood it better than I understood people. Years later, that same instinct became a dream. My own little pottery brand. Minimalist mugs, warm tones, handmade, small batch, ethically sourced. Sounds romantic, right? Except, dreams don't pay rent. I worked shifts at a bookstore, then waited tables on weekends, and used every spare dollar to buy supplies. Late nights became early mornings. The kitchen became a kiln. I burned through relationships, electricity, and hope. And then came the day I launched my online store. I posted the link everywhere, to friends, to strangers, to that girl from high school I hadn't spoken to in 8 years. I waited, refreshed the page, again, and again. 2 sales. One was my cousin. The other was someone who accidentally double-clicked. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've sold 17 mugs. 17. In half a year. Now, I sit at the foot of my bed, knees pulled to my chest. That stack of unsold pieces mocks me from across the room. They're beautiful, they're useless, and worst of all, they're mine. I thought chasing my dream would be brave. But maybe it was just foolish. People tell you to follow your passion. They don't tell you what to do when it leads you into a dead end. The rent notice is still on the fridge. Red letters. Final warning. And I can't even look at the clay anymore, because I don't know if I have the heart to shape something that no one wants to hold. I took the job out of panic. Not passion. It was a startup, marketing agency, buzzwords everywhere. Disruptive strategy. Authentic engagement, human-first branding. None of it meant anything, but I smiled, nodded, typed fast, and showed up every morning like I believed in the vision. Truth was, I was drowning. But at least drowning came with a paycheck. I traded clay for client calls, art for analytics. My world became Google Sheets, cold brew, and a never-ending Slack thread called Number Synergy Hub. They liked me at first. Said I was refreshing, a quiet powerhouse. Then the compliments faded. The deadlines didn't. One late campaign turned into whispers. 2 missteps became performance check-ins. I was exhausted, but I kept trying. Because when you've already failed once, you learn to beg quietly and perform stability like it's survival. Then came the Tuesday. Big client. Bigger pressure. We were pitching a product launch. Tight turnaround. I'd stayed up 3 nights formatting the slides, proofread it 5 times. But somehow, the wrong version got sent. The file with outdated pricing, the one we'd agreed never to use. The meeting lasted 7 minutes. The client didn't yell. They just smiled and said they'd be exploring other partners. I knew what that meant. Back at the office, no one looked at me. Not even Jenna, the one who sat next to me and shared her oat milk lattes. By 4 p.m., I was in a glass-walled room, sitting across from my manager, watching him shuffle papers like he was trying to delay the moment. "We're going to have to let you go." I nodded. Didn't argue, didn't cry. I just stood, walked to my desk, picked up my tote bag, and left behind every version of myself I thought was enough. Failure doesn't always scream. Sometimes, it just quietly escorts you out while everyone else pretends not to notice. The walls of my apartment were too quiet that night. Even the fridge seemed to hum slower, like it knew something had been lost. I sat on the bathroom floor. Not for any reason, really, just because it was the smallest room, and I needed to feel contained. The tile was cold, my back against the door, knees pulled up, head resting in my palms. Then it happened. My chest tightened. Breath caught midway like I'd forgotten how. My fingers tingled. The world blurred around the edges. My heart wasn't pounding. It was thrashing. I gasped. No sound came out, just air. Not enough of it. Not fast enough. My mind started spinning. Is this a heart attack? Am I dying? I clawed at the sink edge to pull myself up, ran the tap, splash, cold water to the face, again. Eventually, my breathing slowed. Not because I remembered how, but because my body just gave up fighting. I collapsed to the floor, wet, empty, and humiliated. Not by anyone else. By me. Because I wasn't supposed to fall apart like this. Not after all the self-help books. Not after all the stay strong mantras. Not after pretending I had it together. I don't know how long I stayed there. Time folds in strange ways when you're unraveling. Eventually, I crawled to bed. Didn't undress. Didn't cry. Just lay there. Eyes wide open, ceiling fan spinning, mind spinning faster. I whispered to the dark, I can't keep doing this. Not in a dramatic way, not even desperate, just tired. Too tired to start over, too tired to dream again, too tired to believe I was worth more than this string of failures. They say hitting rock bottom is a moment. For me, it was a slow, sinking drift into a place where even the smallest decision, brushing my teeth, checking my phone, replying to a text, felt like lifting weights. But in that stillness, somewhere between breathlessness and surrender, something shifted. Not hope, not yet. Just a pause. A long, trembling breath that whispered, maybe this isn't the end. Morning came without sunlight. Gray sky. Muted light through half-closed blinds. Everything looked faded, like someone turned the saturation down on the world. I didn't reach for my phone, not right away. The thought of notifications, bills, reminders, maybe pitying texts, made my stomach turn. But I checked it anyway, out of habit, out of fear. No missed calls, no urgent emails, just one message from Leah, an old friend from college. We hadn't spoken in 3 years? 4? Her message was short. Hey, random question. Are you still making those mugs? I've been thinking about one you gave me ages ago. I stared at the screen, read it twice, 3 times. A mug. From me. Something I made, with my hands. That she remembered. That she wanted. And just like that, the fog lifted. Not all of it, but enough to sit up. My heart thudded. Not with fear this time, with something else. A flicker. I messaged her back. I've got some pieces here. I can send you photos. Her reply came fast. Yes, please. I'd love to buy one. Buy. That word hit different. Not gift, not support, not charity. Buy. I got out of bed. Feet hit the floor, heavy. But there was motion. I walked to the corner of the apartment, where the stack of forgotten mugs waited. Dusty. wrapped in paper towels and doubt. I unwrapped one. It was deep green, uneven at the rim. Charming, I used to say. Flawed, I used to think. But today, it looked whole. I grabbed my phone, took a photo near the window where the light kissed the glaze, sent it. 3 minutes later. It's beautiful, I'll take that one. I didn't cry, but something inside cracked open. A window, maybe, letting in something that had been missing for months. Leah sent payment through an app. More than I asked. With a note, keep creating. I stared at those 2 words until my vision blurred. Then I opened the cabinet under the sink, pulled out the last bag of clay I owned. Half used, dry around the edges. I held it to my chest. That night, I went to sleep with hands aching to make something again. Not for a paycheck, not for approval, just to remember who I was before failure made me forget. The bag of clay sat on the counter like a question. Heavy, cracked at the corners. Still usable, if I softened it with enough water and patience. That morning, I cleared the kitchen table, pushed aside unopened mail, a half-eaten granola bar, and the lingering scent of resignation. I rolled up my sleeves, tied my hair back, and opened the bag. It was drier than I remembered, like it had forgotten how to be shaped. But so had I. Still, I dug my fingers in, pressed, folded, pressed again. At first, nothing felt right. The clay resisted. My hands trembled. The rhythm was gone. But then, one breath, one steady push of palm against palm, and the clay gave in, yielded, softened. Like it was waiting for me too. I made 12 mugs that day, each one different, some taller, some thicker, all of them imperfect, but alive. They lined the table in crooked rows, each one whispering, "You still have this in you." I took photos, natural light, no filters, posted them online. No marketing speak, no big campaign, just 12 handmade mugs, my last batch for a while, $28 each, free shipping, DM to claim. Then I closed the laptop. Didn't wait, didn't refresh. I made tea, washed my hands, let the silence settle without panic. And then, ping, one message, then another, then 6. Within 3 hours, all 12 mugs were gone. Gone, paid, claimed, loved. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Not like panic this time, like hope, real, trembling, dangerous hope. I boxed them carefully that night, wrapped each mug like a promise I never thought I'd get to keep. Printed labels, wrote small thank you notes by hand, made by tired hands and a stubborn heart. As I sealed the last box, I caught my reflection in the microwave door. Messy bun, clay-smeared cheeks, eyes wide, but not with fear, with wonder, because something had happened that nobody saw coming, not even me. Failure had burned everything down. But maybe, just maybe, this was the first tiny green shoot breaking through the ash. I used the earnings from those 12 mugs to buy more clay. Not much, just enough for another small batch. But it felt powerful, like I was voting for myself, with every dollar, every decision. I didn't tell anyone, not yet. It felt too delicate, like naming it too soon would scare it off. I walked to the art supply store, hands buried deep in my jacket pockets, calculating the cost of every ounce, every tool I might need. No music in my ears, just the sound of my footsteps on pavement and the voice in my head asking, "Are you really doing this again?" Yes. Yes, I am. The cashier smiled when I handed her the clay, said, "Starting a project?" I nodded, didn't say more, because this wasn't just a project. It was survival. It was reclamation. It was me saying, I'm not done. Back at home, I cleared space, moved my books to one shelf, shoved kitchen appliances into a cabinet. The toaster could wait. The kitchen table became my studio. Again. The next batch came easier. The clay obeyed my hands, like it remembered we used to dance. I shaped, trimmed, fired, glazed, and waited. Firing days are the hardest. You place your work in the kiln and hope it comes out whole. Not cracked, not blistered, just enough. When I opened the kiln 2 days later, I held my breath and exhaled. All 10 mugs. Perfect, beautiful, better than I expected. I posted them online again, this time with quiet confidence. New batch, 10 mugs, handmade with care, $30 each, DM to order. They sold in under an hour. One buyer left a comment. I drink tea from your mug every morning. It's become part of my peace. That stopped me, not because it was flattering, but because it was true. My hands had shaped something that shaped someone else's life, even for 5 minutes a day. That's when I understood. This wasn't just about mugs, it was about presence, connection, craft, and worth. I wasn't rebuilding a business, I was rebuilding myself. There's something strange about watching your apartment slowly disappear beneath cardboard boxes and packing paper. At first, it felt like clutter. Now, it felt like proof. Proof that something was working. The dining chairs, pushed into the hallway, my table, now covered in drying racks, mugs cooling like sleeping animals. The couch, home to rolls of tape, scissors, thank you cards, and shipping labels. I wasn't just making mugs anymore. I was shipping joy, one fragile parcel at a time. Every ping of an order felt like a heartbeat, and each review that came back, a pulse of something new. Trust, validation, momentum. I worked 12-hour days, sometimes 14. My fingers cramped from trimming handles. My nails were always caked with clay, no matter how often I scrubbed. I forgot what it was like to wake up without an ache in my spine. And yet, I was the happiest I'd been in years. There was no boss, no performance reviews, no fake smiles in glass-walled conference rooms, just me, my kiln, my breath, and a growing list of people who wanted what I made. I reinvested everything, bought glazes in new colors, ordered sturdier boxes, finally got a real label printer instead of handwriting addresses at 2 a.m. with a Sharpie. One evening, I got an email from a customer named Liana. She wrote, "I bought one of your mugs as a gift, but ended up keeping it. Drinking from it feels like holding something real. Thank you." I read it 3 times. Then once more, out loud. It sounded like a prayer. I wasn't making art for galleries. I wasn't making trends for influencers. I was making rituals for everyday people, moments they could hold in their hands, and maybe that was enough. No, it wasn't just enough. It was everything. That night, as I sealed the last package, the apartment quiet except for the gentle churn of the fan, I whispered to myself, this is what building something honest feels like. Not flashy, not loud, but steady and real. It happened on a Wednesday. I was halfway through wrapping a mug in craft paper when my phone buzzed. Again, and again, and again. At first, I thought something was wrong, but then I saw the notifications, mentions, tags, orders, messages. I blinked, clicked one. It was a video, a short, cozy reel. Soft piano in the background, a woman making tea, slowly, lovingly, and pouring it into one of my mugs. The caption read, "My new favorite ritual. This mug makes mornings feel like home." She had over 300,000 followers. The video was only 2 hours old, and it already had 1.2 million views. I stared at the screen, frozen. Not in fear this time, in disbelief. Then the orders started rolling in. Faster than I could count, faster than I could even think. 20, 30, 60, sold out. I hadn't even posted a new batch. They were pre-ordering, trusting I'd make more. I sank into the nearest chair. Mug still in one hand, roll of tape in the other. The clay dust on my jeans felt sacred. The phone kept buzzing. Friends started texting. "Is this your mug? Girl, you're viral. Do you need help?" That last one. I didn't even know how to answer. Yes. Number I didn't know. My heart was racing, not from panic, but from the kind of rush you only feel when a dream that's been quietly surviving finally stands up and roars. I got up, opened the cabinet, counted how many mugs I had left. Only 4. Not enough. I started prepping clay that night. No Netflix, no scrolling, just the soft rhythm of kneading, shaping, forming. The kiln glowed warm in the corner, like a sun I built with my own hands. I didn't sleep much, but when I finally laid down, with sore arms and clay under my fingernails, I felt something wrap around me. Not a blanket, something deeper, belonging. I had gone from invisible to seen, not because I chased attention, but because I stayed honest. And the world finally saw me. 3 weeks later, an email appeared in my inbox. Subject line, "Let's talk collaboration." I almost ignored it. I'd been getting flooded with spam, offers, pitches. Some wanted bulk orders, others wanted to leverage my brand. It all felt off. But this one had a name I recognized. Not from Instagram, from before. Derek, my old boss, from the marketing agency. The one who'd sat across from me and said, "We're going to have to let you go," without meeting my eyes. Now, he was reaching out. The email was overly friendly. "Hey there, just saw your work online. Amazing stuff. We're building a new client gift program and thought your handmade mugs would be a perfect fit. Let's set up a time to chat." I stared at the screen. Not angry, not even smug. Just curious. Is this what full circle feels like? I drafted a response, deleted it, wrote another, deleted that too. Finally, I replied, "Hi, Derek. Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate the interest. At the moment, I'm prioritizing smaller batch, intentional collaborations that align with my values. Best of luck on your project." That was it. Short, clean, firm, no need to explain. No need to remind him who I was or how he'd overlooked me. That was the past, and I'd already fired the version of myself that waited for permission. Still, when I clicked send, my hands trembled just a little. Not because I was scared, but because this was a moment. A soft, silent reclamation. He replied, "Of course." Said he understood. Wished me well. But I didn't respond. Not to be rude, just to be clear. Some bridges aren't burned, they're just no longer needed. That night, I lit a candle in the corner of my studio, turned on soft music, and kept shaping. There was clay to wedge, orders to fulfill, and shelves to fill again. And in the quiet, I smiled. Because sometimes, the best kind of revenge is not rage, or shouting, or proving them wrong. Sometimes, it's simply thriving so fully, so peacefully, that their memory fades into background noise you no longer hear. Success, it turns out, can feel a lot like exhaustion. Not the burnout of failure, but a deeper ache. The kind that settles into your bones when passion turns into pressure. I was making more mugs than ever, orders booked weeks in advance, emails pinging at all hours, DMs, invoices, shipping delays, requests for custom pieces. My phone never stopped. And neither did I. I stopped listening to music while I worked, stopped sitting down for real meals, stopped calling my sister back. I told myself I was fine. Because this was what I wanted, right? This was the dream. But the dream was heavy now, and I was holding it alone. It hit me one morning when I looked at a fresh tray of mugs and felt nothing. No joy, no excitement, just the weight of another to-do list. That scared me. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I sat, in silence. No phone, no wheel, just me and my breath. And I asked myself out loud, what would it look like to rest without guilt? The answer came in the form of a text. From Leah, the friend who'd bought that first mug months ago. "Hey, I know this is random, but would you ever want help with your shop? I'm between jobs, and I keep thinking about how happy you sounded last time we talked." I stared at her message, felt a lump form in my throat. Because yes, I needed help. And no, I didn't want to admit it. But maybe letting someone in was part of healing too. I messaged her back. "Can you come by tomorrow?" "Just for an hour. I'll make tea." She showed up the next day with a notebook, a smile, and sleeves already rolled. We didn't just organize inventory, we laughed, talked about nothing and everything. And when she left, the apartment didn't feel so small. Neither did the dream. That night, I laid in bed, finally able to breathe all the way in. Because for the first time, this didn't feel like a race. It felt like a rhythm. And I wasn't alone in the music anymore. Leah became more than help. She became part of the heartbeat. She started with packaging, careful hands, always double-checking the labels, tucking in thank you notes like little love letters. Then came customer service, replying to messages I'd been too overwhelmed to answer, politely turning down rushed requests, protecting my boundaries when I didn't know how. It was strange, watching someone else care about something I'd built from the dust of my own undoing. But it also felt right. Like the studio could finally breathe with both lungs. I moved shelves, reorganized the glaze station, cleared out the clutter. We made space, not just for mugs, but for ease. We set boundaries. No late-night order packing, no responding to emails past 7 p.m. And Fridays? Fridays became creative days. No production, no shipping, just play. Exploring new forms, new textures, new ways of making. It saved me. Again. Around this time, I started getting messages from other artists. Some were just starting, some were stuck, some had failed, like I did, and were trying to decide if it was worth starting over. They'd ask, "How did you bounce back? How did you know what to do? Weren't you scared?" I'd smile, because the truth was simple. I didn't know. I was terrified. I just didn't stop. And slowly, I began to answer them. Voice notes, thoughtful replies. Sometimes even Zoom calls with strangers who reminded me of myself, sitting on that bathroom floor months ago thinking it was the end. But it wasn't the end. It was a pause. A deep breath. A turning point disguised as ruin. The more I spoke, the more I realized, maybe my story wasn't just mine. Maybe it was a map. A reminder that failure isn't a dead end. It's just a detour that teaches you how to drive in the dark. One day, Leah looked at me and said, "You should teach a workshop." I laughed, then stopped laughing, because maybe she was right. Maybe sharing the clay wasn't just about selling it. Maybe it was time to shape something even bigger than mugs. We planned the workshop on a whim. No big venue, no fancy sponsors, just a rented room at the community center, 2 long tables, and a stack of clay. I posted about it once. Nothing flashy, just, come make something. No pressure, just hands, heart, and clay. I expected 5 people, maybe 3. We got 14. 14 strangers. Each carrying their own quiet heaviness, their own reasons for showing up. One woman whispered, "I haven't touched clay since my divorce." Another said, "I just needed to feel something real." We didn't talk about technique, not much. We talked about breath, about letting your fingers follow your thoughts, about how it's okay to mess up the shape. It still holds meaning. The room was quiet, but not empty. There was laughter, soft sighs, a few tears, and then something unexpected happened. A girl, maybe 19, lifted her half-finished mug and asked, "Is it okay if I don't finish this today?" I looked at her nervous hands, her uncertain eyes, and I said, "It's always okay to leave space for later." She smiled, and so did I, because I meant it. For her, for me, for all of us who are still learning that unfinished doesn't mean unworthy. When the workshop ended, they lingered, didn't want to leave. We packed up slowly, the air thick with something sacred, like possibility. Leah and I walked back to the studio in the blue-purple dusk. Neither of us said much. We didn't have to. The silence was full. That night, I opened my journal, the one I hadn't touched in months, and I wrote just one line. Healing isn't loud, it's slow, and sometimes it looks like clay. The next day, I made mugs again, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because now, this wasn't just about survival, it was about presence, community, and the soft, miraculous act of creating something from what once felt like nothing. The invitation came in a crisp envelope, sealed with gold foil. At first, I thought it was junk mail, but inside, a handwritten card, elegant script, an offer I never imagined. We'd be honored to feature your work in our upcoming local gallery exhibition. Makers and Meaning, my hands trembled as I read it. A gallery? My work. A space I never dared to dream of stepping into. Not because I didn't believe in my pieces, but because I thought, those places weren't for people like me. People who'd failed. People who worked from folding tables and packed mugs between grocery runs. But I said yes. Quietly, carefully, and with every inch of the courage I'd earned. The night of the opening, I wore a dress I hadn't touched in years. Simple, soft blue, clay-colored nails, hair tied up the way I used to before everything fell apart. When I arrived, the space was glowing, soft lights, curated music, and there, on the far wall, a row of shelves. Each held one of my mugs, labeled, lit gently from above. Visitors paused to hold them, turn them in their hands, read the tiny card beside each one, hand-thrown, imperfect by choice, built from broken beginnings. My breath caught. Near the end of the night, I saw her, my mother, standing quietly at the back, clutching her purse with both hands, eyes glistening. She hadn't said much when I dropped out of my old job. When the business started, when I nearly gave up, she was cautious, careful with hope. But now, she walked toward me, didn't speak, just reached out, and picked up one of the mugs. Held it. Really held it. Then, in the softest voice, I didn't know. I smiled. Not bitter, not triumphant, just full. Because maybe some things don't need an apology, just acknowledgement. She stayed by my side for the rest of the evening, asked questions, listened, touched every piece like she was trying to understand the story inside it. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Not just as her daughter, but as a maker, a builder, a woman who lost everything and shaped something back. The gallery lights dimmed near closing time. People trickled out, and I stood by the wall, watching the last few guests take one final glance at what failure had taught me to create. Not just mugs, but meaning. The studio is quiet tonight. No orders waiting, no kiln humming, no labels to print. Just the soft tick of the clock, the faint scent of dried glaze in the air, and shelves lined with pieces, some new, some still warm from the last batch. I sit at my old kitchen table, the one that's seen failure, fear, and the first breath of something brave. A mug rests between my hands. Not for sale, not perfect, but mine. Outside the window, the city carries on. Unbothered, unaware. But in this small corner of the world, something has shifted. I used to believe failure was the end, that when you lost a job, or a dream crumbled, or when no one noticed your work, it meant you weren't meant for more. But now I know. Failure isn't the closing chapter, it's the pause. The silence between songs. The blank space where you start again, differently, deliberately. I learned that rock bottom isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's clay dust on your palms, and a single message from a friend asking if you still make mugs. And from that whisper, a rhythm. From that silence, a shape. From that failure, a life I never thought possible. This wasn't just about turning a broken dream into a business. It was about turning heartbreak into art, loneliness into connection, shame into softness. And now, as I look around this little studio, lit by one dim lamp, I feel it. Gratitude. For the mess. For the slow climb. For every moment that nearly made me quit. Because they shaped me as much as the clay ever could. If you've made it to the end of this story, thank you. Thank you for sitting in the quiet with me, for letting this story unfold slowly, gently, honestly. And if something in it spoke to you, if you've ever felt like your story was over before it had the chance to begin, Please remember, you are not done. You are shaping something, even now, even if you can't see it yet. I hope you'll come back for the next chapter, for the next creation, for the next moment we get to share something real. Until then, breathe deep, rest well, and hold your dreams like they're made of clay, soft, malleable, and worth shaping again. End of script. Good night.